Hello, this is Stephen Pohl. Thanks for listening to the Ohio Business Podcast. If you want to make my day 10 times better, if you could go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star review for this podcast, you could probably just search it, typing in Ohio Business Podcast. That would make my day infinitely better, but let's get to the show. Thanks. Welcome back to the Ohio Business Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Pohl, and today we are joined with the first ever guest of the podcast, Joe Justice. He owns Guardian Insurance Solutions and Victory Outdoor Care. Once again, thanks for coming on. Great having you back.
Absolutely glad to be here. Glad to see the podcast develop, and hopefully I can provide a little more insight and let you know how it's been.
Yeah, Joe is basically maybe one of three guests that were on right before the pandemic. I think the COVID was trying to, becoming more of a thing during that first podcast. But kind of talk about, just where have you been since the podcast? Maybe some of the struggles of COVID and just, how you've been since then.
Yeah. So pretty much pre-COVID was definitely a different time for me. I had just quit my full-time job to go self-employed. That's when I started up the insurance agency, and thankfully the landscape company was able to provide my cost of living. So that's what allowed me to have the flexibility to do the insurance agency. It was great timing in my opinion. At the time, my current now my ex-wife did not agree to the terms of what I was doing, and that's okay. But COVID started hitting and stuff started shutting down, and as with the general population, panic was set in, and everything started to become unknown. I thought that the landscape would start to slow down since people are home now, and now they want to do their save the money and do their own projects themselves. Thankfully, the insurance industry is a very recession-proof, economic-proof. There's really no turning the insurance industry upside down, because it's law. It's got to stay active regardless of what's going on in the economy and in the world. So thankfully, being able to build that was still part of the game plan, still continuing to push forward. But it was a struggle. It was a huge struggle starting a scratch insurance agency. Not very many carriers were giving me the time of day, so I had to take what I could and hope for the best. But ended up making it work. Basically kind of cost my marriage as well. But nonetheless, I wasn't going to let all that stuff bring me down, and I knew deep down I needed to grow these companies and continue to pursue my dreams and my goals and what I wanted to do. And I wasn't going to let anything get in the way. At the time, I had 2 kids, still have 2 kids. I have a third actually on the way with my new fiance. Blessed as can be, super excited for the new chapters of my life that started because of the pandemic and during the pandemic. I think God just had a way of taking care of me for the last year, in a sense of, landscape was busier than heck. We had no problem finding business, getting business. It turned out, even though people were home, at this point, they just were tired of looking at their yards looking like shit. So they didn't care to dish out the money and to pay us to come out and fix it up. Now that they're from home and looking out the window, they want to look at a nice view, not something that's overgrown and weed filled. And so it was great. We did not see a hiccup at all in the landscape business. Continued to grow that. I just really started to excel the insurance industry, or the insurance agency, and I had a partner with that at the time, and he ended up breaking away from me here towards the end of 2020. Again, another blessing in disguise. a small panic, hit, but transitioned to running this agency solo. And it was the best decision that could have happened. In a nutshell, 2020 was a divorce, move out, worrying about what's going on with, both my companies now being fully self-employed, and losing a business partner. And that was pretty much it. That was my 2020 year. But I couldn't have experienced it any differently. And I dealt with what the cards were being played, and I push it forward. That's it. All I could do at this point. I mean, I've got 2 kids that that thrive off of me and survive off of me. I've got 2 businesses that thrive and survive off of me. So it's feast or famine right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, so during the pandemic, was the landscaping business, was that pretty just steady? There was no decline, or did you see an uptick?
No decline whatsoever. We continue to excel. I mean, we were probably doing anywhere from like $30,000 to $45,000 months through August. And then just with the season change, started taking down, a decline. Less people are starting to do more, stuff outside. And that goes with the industry. That has nothing to do with the pandemic or what was going on with the economy. But it really helps. Try and figure out what we want to continue to do and what we can continue to expand on from a service aspect, so that we can continue to have, even at bare minimum, $20,000 months. I mean, those are great. Those are still great months when we talk about, somewhat of little overhead we have. We can do most of this work with only 2 to 3 guys. But yeah, no downtick whatsoever. Everything just continued to just excel. It was more of business was good, life was going this way, and so I had to figure out, I had to figure out how to wrap my head around the life scenario and get through that as quickly as I could mentally. Get through the small battles, and then that way I could bounce back and continue to keep everything going same direction.
Kind of touch on, you said you lost your original partner with the insurance side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how that affected just your overall structure and maybe your game plan going forward with the Guardian Insurance.
Yeah, so originally the business partner that I had, we kind of had it was more of a partnership where we owned it together, but we still ran it kind of separately. Like I was in charge of my business, he was in charge of his business, but we were just going for the same goal as far as we just want to build a really nice P&C book of business, personal lines, commercial lines. He started dabbling a little bit in the life insurance space, but we never really did anything too big with that. So we did a lot of individual, building, but it was, it was all under the Guardian Insurance name. And obviously we wanted to try and do the best we could for the company. Now, any decisions we made as far as carriers that we wanted to try and approach, aggregator changes that, maybe we wanted to look at, what to do with some of the business funds, where to structure, our marketing budget. That was all discussed before anybody made a decision, as it should. But yeah, I mean, we were scratch. So all it was sell. Who do you know? Who can we get? Who can we get? Quotes from, and that was pretty much it. That was the only focus. Was we gotta start getting this agency money. We gotta start being able to beef up the bank account before we can start doing anything. Both of my companies were started with no capital. Mm-hmm. It started with whatever I had hands on deck. I did a very bad job with the insurance agency in the fact of I financed myself through credit cards,
Oh,
be able to live for, let's see, I probably lived for 4 months off of the credit card. I got those interest-free checks in the mail that, gave me a 16 to 18 month 0% interest.
yeah.
Time window. And I was like, you know what, hey, I need to get through a year of building this agency. And, I knew that insurance is a lucrative business. And, I was hoping a few, nice policies I could just, throw a nice chunk on the credit cards and whatnot. And so that was a very scary, scary time. But thankfully, even though that was a very probably poor way of doing it, I made it work. And I really, really have not been too stressed about it. And I've always maintained good credit. And so I just reconsolidated all the debt into something that was very affordable, a good interest rate. And, I'm still technically paying on it now, but it's all part of my just daily structure now. I mean, it's not an issue, but I've gotten rid of practically all my credit card debt, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, that's how I did it.
That's actually crazy. Do you think that is just kind of, would you suggest that to anyone, or do you think that you're kind of a special case?
The only way I'll suggest it is you have to look at your situation. If now one, the amount of money that I needed to live on, like I was only able to take the total lump sum I think I might have brought in was probably 10 grand of what I financed. And a lot of that was more so I am not the type that wants to ask for help. I don't want to ask friends for money. And I hate asking family for money. With house support, my family's super, super supportive, but they're not anywhere near the entrepreneurial mindset and like, you got to do what you got to do. And so to try and ask, my parents or somebody close in my family for $10,000 so I can live for 3 months and just hope that takes me, enough time to where I can start generating enough money to live. That to them, they're like, nah, I'm not about to waste that on you if it fails, blah, 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 this and that. So I took it into my own hands and I was like, okay, well, what's the quickest way that I can find some money? No bank's gonna give me I'm not gonna get a loan when I have nothing, no collateral to offer, nothing to, nothing to show outside of like, you just got to trust me.
Yeah.
So, I've kept, a handful of credit cards open that I've had for 5-6 years. They've got decent balance, or they got decent limits on it, but I've always had a zero balance. So they're sending me crap all day, or, every other day I'm getting something in the mail, like, please use us. Well, finally I got 2 checks, for 2 of my 2 different banks that I have credit cards with. And it equated up to about, and I just, 10,000 was just the number I felt I needed. Thankfully it didn't like max out those credit cards because between the 2 of them, my balance was, or my limit that I was able to pull was a lot more. So I stayed, I didn't go over the top. I just stayed with what I knew I needed to buy me some time. And yeah, that's what I did. Each one, I think, offered me 18 months of 0% interest. I just had to make the minimum payments, which at that time, we're talking 35 to 40 bucks. Took a hard credit hit in the beginning. But it all worked itself out. And I made it, I made it doable. I lived off of it. And like I said, I just restructured all of my debt into a very, affordable and manageable point.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm not really too worried. My insurance business is almost 2 years. My landscape business this is going our 3rd full year in business. And it's only going up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I needed to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, the bank's not going to get you a loan. That's for sure. It's kind of a shame that they don't give, some type of starter capital, but they would love to give you a credit card where you owe 20% on the premium, or on the amount. They love doing that, obviously. Yeah, I've never heard anyone do that. That's actually crazy. Good for you for getting through that, man. That's actually awesome. Now, were you, instead of going full head into starting your own insurance broker, did you look at other avenues like joining a broker or anything like that?
Yeah. So my original game plan when I was at Key Bank, when I was a personal bank or a licensed personal bank, so I held, my life and health license. I held my Series 6 and 63 as well. But the whole theory behind what I was looking to do was definitely dabble in the insurance space before I went out on my own. I came with zero background in it. I was only ever taught some life insurance and disability insurance, and even then, I wasn't taught it to the fullest or enough that I should. But through working at the bank, I was approached by a guy that wanted to start or was starting his own State Farm agency. And so I was like, you know what, this is a great way of, I love talking with people. I love working with people, helping people. But one thing about Key Bank is it's a much slower bank than the rest. It's not a Chase, it's not Huntington. And it's just the area that we're in down here in Columbus, Chase and Huntington,
Yeah.
run the show here. So it's naturally a slower bank. And to me, like I need to be doing something. And out of my, 8 to 9 hours a day I would spend at Key Bank, I might talk to, 5 or 6 people total. And the amount of people that sit at my desk might be 1 or 2. Like it's so slow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, what can I do that can get me, more involvement, more activeness. I've always been intrigued by the PNC space, but never did I think that I would actually enter it. Anyway, so I was opening up a business bank account for a State Farm guy. And it's funny, he actually didn't even end up at State Farm. But through that, he kind of went through like almost like a interview style, questioning with me while I was opening up his bank account. And I think what it was is he was trying to jump ahead of the game and see who he might be able to bring into his agency to start as producers.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it worked. And it definitely got me thinking of the PNC side. And my original game plan was go get licensed in the property and casualty space, go work either under him or find another State Farm agent. At least a good thing with State Farm is I knew they were going to be very busy. Like there was always going to be something that I could do there. Their brand's just too well known. They do so much marketing. Like I wouldn't really have a slow day, but yeah, which would be fine. But yeah, again, the problem is they're a captive agency, so I have to sell their product. If I can't sell their product, my options are gone, which I hate. I hate that. So, but nonetheless, that's what I was going to go do. So I immediately started game planning what my next moves were. At the time, my daughter Vivian was not born yet, but we were nearing her due date. And so what I told myself is KeyBank offered 6 weeks of paid paternal leave, an amazing benefit. I got that from day one. And so I told myself, I said, dude, this is literally your only time to, possibly do this without quitting the job.
Yeah.
And so within that 6-week period, I went, studied all the coursework I could on my own. I think I started the coursework before I actually went on paternal leave. That way, once paternal leave hit, I could go get the license and whatnot and take the test. And of course, if KeyBank found out I was doing this, I probably would have been, at least talked to right on the spot about it, because the bank has nothing to do with PNC, so they're wondering why I'm even focusing my time there.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as my paternal leave hit, I waited probably a couple, maybe like a week to 2 weeks after my daughter was born. Went and took the test, passed it first time. Like, that was my first kind of light bulb that was like, dude, you're making the right move, because I never passed any tests first time ever. Life and health, nope. 6, nope. 63, nope. Failed them all, at least my first time.
PNC sucks too. I can't.
Dude, it's so dry. It's what's nuts is, like, now that I'm in the space, I'm excited. I love this stuff. I'll talk about it all day long. Studying for it, yeah, that was a brute. That's and really, it wasn't necessarily personal. Personal's so straightforward. Commercial side was like, oh
yeah,
like it gets nuts. But yeah, so the light bulb started firing off. Like, dude, you're making the right move. The signs are showing that you're making the right move. So once I passed my insurance license, I met for lunch that guy from State Farm and just let him know. And I was up front with him. I told him, I was like, dude, like, now that I'm licensed, my goal is I only want to work for about a year, learn the lingo, learn the quoting, learn, what I should be talking about, where I should focus on. And then I want to branch off and do something on my own. And that lunch that I mentioned, that he told me, he was like, you know what? I've been thinking that same thing. Like, I don't even know if I want to stick with State Farm. Like, I definitely want to go the independent route. And so immediately we started scoping out, like, going into an agency together. And, fast forward to now, like, he was never a part of the agency. He was only ever a part of just the talking stage of it. He never even started with me, which it is what it is. Actually, I think I'm meeting him this week for lunch, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I owe a lot to him to even get me to realize the idea, and to implement the steps. I was just, over the last couple of years, I've switched from being the talk about it to just go do it. Just go do it. If you get it, you hit a roadblock, you adjust. If you fail, dude, you fail. Like, you tried. Like, there's many things, and there's nothing preventing you and stopping you from doing what you want to do. Not even people. Like, I gave up, or I stopped the marriage, because I knew that, it wasn't the right person to help me achieve my dreams. And that's totally fine. She gave me 2 amazing, beautiful kids. She's a great woman. Just, we weren't the meant to be people, and that's okay. But yeah, that's kind of how that went. And so once I went back to KeyBank after my paternal leave was up, basically put in my 2 weeks. And at that point, like, I just made it a reality. Like, dude, you got to figure this out now. Like, you're not going to get paid anymore. So that's when I financed myself to help me get through, some months while we figured out the agency. And my God, those first 6 months were freaking brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. It took me, for the first 3 months, I was only able to sell 2 carriers, which, unless they were preferred top clients, good risks to have on the books, like, that was my only way I was able to even sell the policy. Otherwise, I'd get beat out a shit ton.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I did just enough and found just enough good clients in my natural market that it helped produce some paychecks to at least cover business expenses. So I, didn't need to foot the bill for those business expenses. But yeah, it
Yeah.
really, the first year was tough.
When you entered any type of like service industry, 'cause, you know, I'm licensed basically everything you said as well. I mean, that first year and a half, 2 years is going to be absolutely just awful. And just from you know, growing your book and your practice, it's painstakingly difficult. Yeah, having different sources of income is going to help with that regard. Like, and a lot of people get burnt out so quickly, you know, and it's really a long haul game, especially when you don't, you know, as young as we are, you gotta you gotta be in it for the long haul. And you know, you touched on, you know, you gave yourself $10,000, and you know, you just had a kid on the way. How important do you think, you know, kind of living on the bare minimum kind of helped your business, and do you think that's going to help you in the future and just learning how to be that cost effective?
In regards to like financing myself and not having like the funds coming in.
Well, you know, just being as strict as possible with your budgeting, and like you know, just tracking everything, that type of thing, just making sure that you're not going overboard. I don't know. I think it's important to go through that really rough patch, to, you know, understand and have your back against the wall to kind of make it. But it also helps you because from a cost standpoint, you're just smarter in the ways you spend your money, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would like to recommend that everybody at least goes through a back against your wall scenario in time frame. But it's not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. It's rough. You know, it would have been 10 times easier had I had a working spouse. So I was the sole breadwinner at the time. So that's another reason why when I went full self-employed, that was a major cost, because I gave up health benefits, I gave up job security, I gave up a guaranteed paycheck, and I had two kids. Yeah, I mean, probably 90% of the population might call me a freaking idiot for doing what I did. But you know, when I'm 40, 50 years old, I mean, even now, like I got nobody telling me like, dude, you got to be here at this time. You're only worth X amount every 2 weeks. Like literally nobody telling me what to do. And now that I'm starting to hire and build my team, and you know, I'm starting to really, you know, truly feel you know, complete in what I want to be able to do and provide. And the back against the wall was absolutely 100% needed for me. Thankfully, I've always been somewhat of a frugal person. So unless I'm spending money on my kids or you know, spending money on some experiences, I never, hardly ever buy myself anything. If I don't, you know, if I don't need it, I don't need it. You know, I got plenty of stuff, you know, that will get me through my day-to-day work. And now that I got, you know, work shirts and stuff, that's all I wear. So it's not like I need, you know, just once these start going to crap, I'll buy more, but
Yeah.
this is space for that.
You got to rep the brand at all times.
Yeah. I mean, it for sure taught me, you know, the way to do spending. And I mean, it helped that I've always been into finance, ever since I've been, you know, early stages of high school, when I could start taking, you know, the business courses. I took business capstone, two courses in accounting, one course in personal finance. Like that stuff just always intrigued me. I think that stuff should be mandatory, absolutely mandatory in high school. People got to know. I mean, there needs to be a credit course. There needs to be all kinds of debt course, like whatever. Like you need to freaking know what the real world does.
Yeah.
Shit job at teaching it.
They don't even do that in college, so it's just.
I know everything's elective, and I'm like, okay, you're electing to not know shit about the world. So
you're electing to not know shit. That's funny.
But so thankfully, you know, a lot of those teachings really helped. It kept me always intrigued. But I mean, my as a shameful as it might sound, I mean, it still 100% helps, and helps form and uh, create the life that I want to live. Unfortunately, I'm a materialistic guy. I want nice cars. I want nice homes. I want several homes scattered throughout the nation. I want vacations. I want my kids to have good education. I want my kids to, if they see something in them, in the future that they need some money to help promote or bring out, like I want to be able to foot the bill and take care of that. I want to be the guy that takes an entire family out to dinner, and it's just a one check tab. I got it. Like that's where I want to be, and that right now it's pretty much going to take all of my 20s to get through to be able to do. I don't party. I hardly go out. But don't get me wrong. Like I'll still, I'll still do fun things, and you have to do fun things. For me, my fun things is I work out 5 days a week. I play soccer once a week, sometimes twice a week. So I always maintain adult interaction. And again, everything I'm doing when you're working in a service-based industry, everything you're doing is networking. Mm-hmm. My gym, I have a handful of clients now at the gym. I've given them my t-shirts that they now wear at the gym. My soccer team, I insure a couple players on my soccer team, and we'll continue to build that up. And so I mean, like, it's it's weird to say that I look at every opportunity and everything I do in my life as a business opportunity. But I mean, that's just the way it is. Once you're self-employed, like everything can somewhat correlate back to, a business opportunity. It's on you of, are you going to be an ass and push it a lot? Or, when you're just having a beer and you're catching up with your friend and you talk about, what you're doing, how life's been, that natural flow of a conversation, occurs. But absolutely, you need to be doing something, whether some people like to do meditating or whatever, like, that's not really my thing. My meditation is the gym. It's also my somewhat of alone time, even though I try to talk to a lot of people. But that helps keep me sane, because as you see, I'm at my home right now, and it's a little rough because out of all of my friends and people that I know, I'm one of the only self-employed individuals. Everybody's working there, nobody's getting off until 5-6 o'clock tonight. So I'm on my own.
Well, as we wrap up, what are the plans for the future for both businesses, or,
really I just within the last couple of days, I've kind of really focused on what I want the long term to look like for the insurance agency. And ideally, I want to be able to expand it into a full-blown insurance agency. I want to be able to offer group benefits to employers, health insurance, life insurance, property and casualty, all of it. I want to be kind of that one-stop shop, or be somebody that, I own the P&C side, and then a subsidiary that is a group benefits business that just, and I can market it, brand it the way I want it to be, just to, for group benefits. But nonetheless, my insurance agency is owning, all these different pieces to it. So that's where I'm taking the insurance agency. It's a matter of who can I help, who can I find to help me, build this out? Who can I help bring in, as additional owners to really expand it? I'm not doing it on my own. Sounds crazy. It is crazy, but I mean, I'll go that route if I need to. But I'm very much a team player, so I like having other bodies to all line up towards a similar, the same goal. And then the landscape side, it's really that one's more of just baby steps, because that's one business that I can't bring in more business than I can handle without hiring more people and hoping that I can afford them. So honestly, all I can say right now with the landscape business is our next step is just to get another truck and crew on the road, have 2 crews going out. That will be a massive, massive help to our bottom line. It will be a massive help in our expansion process. But I mean, we somewhat are a full-blown landscape company, so it would just be adding some other small services that we don't offer right now, and just adding those in. And then, yeah, any landscape need that you might have, like we offer.
Well, how can people find you, get in contact with you?
Best way is Facebook. I'm Joe Justice on Facebook. My profile picture right now is of me with my daughter on my shoulders. But you can look up Guardian Insurance Solutions on Facebook. I've got a business page. You can look up Victory Outdoor Care on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I rarely dabble in LinkedIn though. Facebook is just the biggest thing, simply because that's the biggest support and easiest way to get a lot of people and brand recognition is on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's where I spend my time.
Well, thanks again, Joe Justice. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Stephen. I appreciate it. Glad to see the podcast excelling, man.
Thank you, man.